All right, you've made it through Matthew and Mark, and today we start into Luke chapter 1. And simply today is the mother's voice at Christmas. You know, Mary's heart was poured out and revealed tremendously in the birth narrative we find in the Gospel of Luke. We find the heart of someone sold out to serving the Lord. And when we consider the heart of Mary, we see this greatness and the significance of the birth of Christ, ultimately who will be the sacrificial lamb. And I believe there's some truths here that Mary can help us to see and to challenge our lives. And one of those is simply this, that Mary carried out the holy task of bearing Jesus. She was given a task, and yes, her task was to be the mother that would carry Jesus and give forth of the virgin birth. Absolutely. But in that, we need to recognize that God gives us a task, and it is a holy task because it is His task, and that we are called, even when it seems impossible and improbable, to carry out the task for the Lord. Mary teaches us that in Luke chapter 1. We also see that in Luke chapter 1, I think it's very important that she had a grateful heart because of the promises of God. She rested in God's promises even when they don't make sense. And I think for us, that reminds us that our heart needs to be turned to gratitude because of the promises that God gives us to His children, the promises of a life, of the presence, of the strength needed to navigate, and ultimately the promise of eternity with Him. I think Mary teaches us the development of a grateful heart, the faithfulness of carrying out the holy task. And I also believe Mary teaches us here, very much in her life, of the greatness of the Lord. Her heart was turned toward understanding God's greatness. And you know, we need to live in such a way in which we are striving to see the greatness of God. We must never lower Him to our standards. We must never attempt to box Him into our understanding, but rather we need to celebrate in His greatness because He is the one who does what is impossible to man is possible with God. And so we need to celebrate that. I think the other thing we see in this narrative of this event that happened and Mary's response to what God is calling her to do is that she treasured all of these things in her heart. And notice this, I think, really, when she talks about treasuring in her heart, she is making it a priority. She is treasuring it, meaning that she is treating it as gold, as something of great value. I think we see that she treasured all of these things in her heart so that it would not leave, that it was at the foundation of who she is. She treasured them because it would serve the catalyst to rejoice in the Lord. And it was treasured in her heart because it allowed her to ponder, wow, I see God at work and how great that is. And I think the last thing we recognize, she pondered them in her heart. Pondered. Do you think about Jesus? Do you think about His work in your life? Do you strive to understand what He's up to? Do you do this so that you hold on to them, so that when the difficult moments come, you're resting in the faithfulness, how God has been faithful in the past, and trusting He is faithful in the present, and trusting that He will be faithful in the future? As we read Luke chapter 1, I hope that you're seeing the heart of Mary, and I hope that you're striving to have such a heart of gratitude and of pondering about Jesus. We'll see you next week.